Today we're going to talk about the Indian religion of Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world. Most sources date it to around 2000 BC, but I've also read that some of their scriptures could be as old as 5000 BC or 7000 BC. We're talking really, really old. And first of all, you know, where is India? Well, India, or the Indian subcontinent, let me get my map here. You know, if you look at your map here, here's China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. Here's where the Americans are fighting right here. Pakistan, these are the guys that say they want to help out the Americans, but they're actually helping the Taliban fight the Americans. And here, this diamond-shaped country is India, right? India is hemmed in the north by two huge mountain ranges. The Hindu Kush and the Himalayas, the tallest mountains in the world. People think, you know, essentially that this diamond-shaped piece of land is actually, you know, floating out in the ocean down here somewhere, and then crashed into Asia, making these big mountain ranges. Okay, so they call it the Indian subcontinent. All right, so that's what we're talking about. And back in the day, essentially, and you're talking 2000 BC, 3000 BC. You had a combination of two cultures, you know, your ethnic Indians here, and then your Aryans. And your Aryans, we're not talking about Hitler's Aryans here, although he did compare himself and the Germans to these ancient peoples who essentially are arguably the genesis for most modern language groups. But these are like Eurasian nomads, the Aryans, that wander all throughout this area here, you know, 3000 BC, 2000 BC, perhaps older. They cross over the Hindu Kush mountains, they blend with the native Indian culture, they bring with them lots of cattle herding, some wars, and lots of trade in between the Indians and the Middle East. And essentially this combination of Indians and Aryans creates two really important social facets. The Indian religion is Hinduism is one, the caste system that goes with Hinduism is the other. And here's how this works, right? Hinduism, on the one hand, is a religion. It's an Eastern religion. And Eastern religions, generally speaking, are different from Western religions in that Eastern religions often talk about some sort of a universal God that encompasses all things, that's in everything. That's in nature and space, right? That the Hindus even talk about aliens, whereas Western religions, you know, particularly the ones that survived the monotheism, which killed all the other religions as they spread across the globe like locusts, right? Western religions say that there is a God up there somewhere, not, you know, physically, in quotation marks, attached to the human race, but that creates the universe and then sort of stands apart from it, you know, manipulates it a little bit, and sometimes not. So Western religion, essentially God is out there. Eastern religion, God is everywhere, including inside ourselves. And so, one, Hinduism, Eastern, God's everywhere. Two, Hinduism is a method of social organization. It divides all Indians into castes, right? A caste, you know, with a T, is similar to a class, that it divides you up, you know, based on wealth and resources, but it's different from a class in that you can't get out of it as long as you're alive. So, Hinduism divides everybody into, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 castes, okay? You're born into a caste, you die in that caste, but the cool thing about Hinduism, if you believe, it's that if you work really hard at what you're supposed to do in your caste job, you can actually go up a caste after you die, okay? So, on top, the ultimate goal of all Indians is to merge with the eternal, the God, everything, the creator that's out there, that's in here, that's everywhere, part of everything. That's Brahman, right? God, okay? The closest to Brahman are the Brahmins, all right? These guys are priests. All right, top of the caste system, they spend their life praying and teaching others how to become closer to God, right? Below them, your Kshatriyas, right? These guys are warriors and they're nobles, right? Warriors and leaders. And sometimes when you read ancient Hindu texts, sometimes the warriors seem a little bit higher than the priests even, right? You can imagine them sort of, struggling for power, if not, openly with weapons, because of course the priests are going to lose that fight, but at least with words and ideology and with economic resources. So below them, you get your skilled workers and farmers. All right. Below them, unskilled workers. Right? Laborers, unskilled workers, okay? And finally, at the very bottom, not even really part of the caste system, right, are the untouchables. And when they say untouchables, they mean really you cannot touch these people. They didn't live in town, they have their own colonies, kind of like lepers. Right? They live out there. If you touch them, you have to go through, a day's worth of ritual cleansing, so you don't contract their cooties. And the jobs that they have to do are sweeping streets, burning bodies. Right? And we say, sweeping streets, that's not so bad. Well, while some Indian civilizations, big cities did have a sewage system, right? You can anticipate that lots of stuff in the streets was human waste, food waste, solid waste, right? And so these are the guys that really have to do the most disgusting possible jobs you can imagine. And they burn bodies, right? So here's how this works. If you do a really good job at your job, then after you die, you get to move up a caste, right? This is called the cycle of rebirth and death, also called the karmic cycle, right? Here's how this works. You do your dharma at your caste job. Oops, let me look up how to spell that real quick. You do your dharma, your caste job, right? If you're an untouchables, you're burning bodies, right? You're liking burning bodies, you do a great job burning lots of bodies, right? If you're a Kshatriya, you fight and you rule, you're a good leader. If you're a Brahmin, you pray a lot and meditate. Meditation, key importance to Hinduism, right? And perhaps we'll touch on that a little bit later. So you do your dharma, you do your job, and you get your karma. Right? I'm sure you've heard people talk about karma in sort of lay terms, right? Like sort of the modern definition of karma is getting what you deserve for what you've done, right? The problem with that is actual karma, as far as the Indians and Hindus are concerned, is your karma doesn't affect you in this life. Your karma is like reincarnation points, okay? Think of it like that, reincarnation points. So you do your dharma, you get your karma, you move up a caste after death. Okay, so eventually you move up all the castes, you become a Brahmin. Brahmins spend their time praying, performing religious rituals, teaching people about God, and meditating. And meditation is just of vital importance to Hinduism, right? The Hindus invent meditation, arguably. Okay? The Hindus also invent yoga, right? Which is a form of exercise and meditation. Yoga, we do it to stay healthy now. Like, Jerry Rice practices yoga and can still play in the NFL after 40 years old. So it is one of the best exercise regimens you could do. But yoga was created to link your mind and your body to Atman, right? Another really important, A-T-M-A-N, another important Hindu concept Notice the shiny light on it, and it's shiny because it's actually God within you. It's not because of the reflection from the window behind the camera. This is God inside everyone. Siddhartha talks about this a lot. And so through meditation, the Brahmin focuses on Atman, God within him. And through yoga, a kind of exercise meditation, Atman is linked with the body, linked with God, and it brings you knowledge of God. And so if you meditate enough and well enough, then after you die and you're a Brahmin, you become one with Brahman, God, right? And this is very different from, say, heaven in a Western concept, right? In the West, people think, Christians at any rate, Muslims as well, your big monotheisms, you die and you go off to this paradise place. And essentially, you're still you, right? Your personality stays, the pain part goes away, and you live in this, this land of milk and honey out there in space somewhere. For the Indians, merging with Brahman is actually ceasing to exist, essentially, right? You become one with God, but your personality disappears. And this makes sense if you think about what life was like to these people in 2000 BC, right? This is before soap, before any kind of modern medicine, before the mass production of food, although we do have farming, obviously, and herding. So life for many people equated with suffering, right? And so the idea of getting reborn, well, to us sounds pretty cool. I wouldn't mind being reborn, right? Especially if I could be reborn as a warrior noble and be rich, or a priest and have all kinds of respect. But really, to your ancient Hindu, rebirth meant suffering. So the goal of this whole caste system is to not get reborn. Okay? If you look at your map here, here's China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. Here's where the Americans are fighting right 2000 BC, but I've also read that some of their scriptures could be as old as 5000 BC or 7000 BC. We're talking really, really old. And first of all, here, Pakistan, these are the guys that say they want to help out the Americans, but they're actually helping the Taliban fight the Americans. And here, this diamond-shaped country is India, right? India is hemmed in the north by... Where is India? Well, India, or the Indian subcontinent, let me get my map here. Today we're going to talk about the Indian religion of Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world. Most sources date it to around